This is the view at the bottom of the road where I stayed last night, and we got just a little ride to get down to the school. On the one side of the street we've got the ocean, the most glorious mountains, and then right across the street here we've got the Kaikoura primary school. Together we learn.
I'm Bruce Pagan, Principal of Kaikoura Primary School, and we're very pleased to see books or resources like this becoming available for schools, and certainly if they can be as part of a partnership between school and the corporate world, so long as they share the same values that the school does. And certainly our school is very strong on respect, on integrity, on personal values, strong personal values. And if there's a company that shares those values, then we would be very keen to have some form of partnership with them.
Interestingly enough, Bruce, that is habit 1 out of our 13 habits, is integrity.
Yeah. Well, to us that fits the values of our school. We try to get our kids to, we have a strong values program at school. There is because of the very strong relationship between teachers and pupils, we concentrate on integrity, on respect, on pride. So yeah, that fits in very well. We'd be very keen to examine sponsorship or partnerships with commercial entities that have a similar value system to our school.
Read more books!
Read more!
How are you guys? Good. So how many of you read books here? Wow, that's fantastic. Wow, really great. When I was growing up, I loved to read. I would read after dinner, after school, when my mom put me to bed at night. She'd turn the light out and say, "Stop reading now, it's time to go to sleep." You know what I do? What do you think I do? Stop reading? Well, I should have. What do you think I did?
You snuck out of your blanket so you could read.
I exactly did that. I had this little flashlight, and I'd go under the covers, and I'd turn my flashlight on, and I'd read my books. And then my mom would come in and say, "I can see your light under those covers, Barbara. Shut that light off and go to sleep." So I did. Now, when I was reading, when I was a little girl, I used to read fiction books. Does anyone know what a fiction book is? Yes?
A book that isn't based on a true story.
Exactly. A fiction book is a book that's not a true story. So there's a wonderful story right here called The Flying Pony Girls. Do you think that's a true story or a fiction book? What do you think? A fiction book. It's not a true story. So that's what I was reading, was fiction books.
Most of my books have got lots of pictures in them, because when I was probably about 2, I knew I wanted to be an artist when I grew up. And I was always really tall for my age. And when I started school, I was almost the tallest in my school. And people said, "Oh, you should be a policeman when you grow up because you're nice and tall." I said, "I don't want to be a policeman. I want to be an artist." Do you know, I don't think I really knew what an artist was. I didn't know any. And I actually hadn't seen any paintings or pictures by real artists. So I just think I liked drawing, and I think that's what I wanted to do. So a lot of my books have a lot of pictures in them. And recently I've been writing books or illustrating books for very, very young people as well as for older people. And that's what I'm going to look at today. Here is an example of one of what I call my baby books. This is a book for babies. You can tell it's a baby's book because it's got cardboard pages. It also is unusual because it opens like that. And like all babies' books, it's not very long. It has lots of pictures, very few words, and I don't know whether you've watched babies reading books lately, but I have. And one of the things they like to do is to turn the pages quickly so they can get to the end of the book. As soon as they get to the end of the book, they go right back and start again. And they just keep doing that over and over and over. Then eventually they get the idea that there was actually something on the page worth looking at. And that slows them down. But for the first few books, babies like to turn the pages really quickly. I'm going to read you this one because it's an old nursery rhyme, probably 500 years old. And it comes from England. And I can remember having this rhyme read to me when I was your age. It's called There Was a Crooked Man. There was a crooked man who walked a crooked mile. He found a crooked sixpence upon a crooked stile. He bought a crooked cat who caught a crooked mouse, and they all lived together in a little crooked house. Pretty simple. So,
I've written one about my dog. Now we got Mac as a puppy. Has anyone else got farm dogs at their place?
Oh.
Yep, lots of us have got farm dogs. Now Mac was crazy, absolutely crazy, drove me nuts. I'd come home from work every day and say to my husband, "Oh, do you know what Mac did today?" And the next day, the same again. "Do you know what that silly dog did today?" And then slowly we got used to how Mac was. And Mac got used to us and kind of what we might want him to do. And then eventually I was coming home saying, "Wow, do you know what Mac did today? He did this amazing thing." So I thought, seeing us talking about Mac all the time, I might have a go at writing about it.
Magical. I just couldn't believe that kids that age were off having adventures, and it felt like I was one of them. And that's pretty much when I started writing little stories about things that were happening around me. And I would include things that were part of my everyday world, and then I would just tell a little lie about it. So my cat might be speaking, or I've got a pony, even though I didn't really have one, but I wanted one. And of course that led on to other things. And people said to me, "You're going to be an artist when you grow up." And I didn't want to be an artist. That was just something that I did to doodle. And because they said to me, "You're going to be an artist," I said, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." And I did everything I could to avoid being an artist. And you know what happened? I became an artist. I went to art school. And so then I was able to start putting pictures with my little stories. But I never showed anyone because I used to think that I wasn't good enough. Does anyone ever think of
Kaikoura, and where are we? We're at Kaikoura. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Garden of the Land. It's your story, and it's set here. And it was published in 1985, and it won the Children's Book of the Year the following year. And since then it's been put out in different editions. So Scholastic then put it out with a different cover, which I thought looked as if they were being attacked by spaceships, flying saucers. Do you think that's what that looks a bit like? And as for this one, if you didn't know that this was set in Kaikoura, it looks as if it's a bit cold, doesn't it? Where do you think, if you were just looking at that, where do you think it would be set?
Behind us is the Kaikoura Peninsula, the ocean, and here we head into a tunnel. Paratitahi Tunnel. And out the other side. Just glorious. Nice bit of air conditioning in the shade.